So we've been interested in doing solar on our house for quite a while now, and just to get started, I did what most people do, and I jumped on Google and I searched for solar power. Of course, these first couple of results are ads here. It looks like the top one was kind of like a lead magnet system trying to capture my contact information. Some basic information there, what I can expect, but really not going too far into depth without giving my contact information. And then I found this Energy Sage website. It's pretty popular, and that was very informational. But I knew I wanted to work with someone local, so I actually got a referral from a friend, this True North Solar, and it looks like they do have some pretty good reviews here online as well, 19 different reviews. So small local company, and I did reach out to them, and I actually met with them the first time over Zoom. They were able to do a screen share like this, and then I kind of talked to them about what I was looking for in a solar system, what we were currently spending per month on our electric bill, and here's what they came up with. So the first page is just a breakdown about their company. They had some references. Here's the overall proposal and what it would look like on our house here. And that was back in April, and I first spoke with them. We've since signed a contract. We've got the permits in place. Engineering is all set up. So it should get started here pretty soon. So this system was going to be 14.28 kilowatt hours, and that kilowatt system. So that was going to offset 154% of our current usage. The reason we were planning on doing that was because I'd like to get a couple of EVs in the future, and I figured it'd be good to power them by solar, of course. We didn't end up going with this proposal. In the end, I found out that I can actually do off-peak in our area, and so it's cheaper to get a second meter and get power overnight at 6 cents. So that's the route we're going to go. But so here with this larger system, that contract price is going to be $41,000. There is that federal solar tax credit going on right now, and through 2020 is 26%. So that's a real big reason why we wanted to get a move on doing solar. I believe next year it goes down to 22%, and then we'll see what happens after that, if it sticks around at all. But so part of the proposal was them explaining, what does the cash flow look like? So obviously it's a very large purchase, $41,000 up front. Here's your tax savings. So out of the gate, you're behind, obviously, and it takes a good while for you to catch up. In this instance, it was about 12 years, which is pretty typical, I would say, for a system of that size. So the estimated utility bills would be, it goes up every year. They're figuring some minor inflation in there. Here's the estimated utility bill with project, and then estimated operating expenses. And so kind of here's what we're looking at for savings in this column, and then cumulative savings. Now, if I take this estimated savings, annual savings, and I do a net present value for these cash flows, tell me what the system is worth today. And for both instances, they came out to would be a positive number, so it makes sense to do. Of course, that's given the assumption that you're going to own the home for a full 25 years. I think for most people, you're going to be looking in this 10-year range or so. But then, of course, there is some sort of residual value of the solar system itself, which can be hard to really quantify. I've heard some agents say half of the cost of the system. Others have said no value whatsoever. I think a safe estimate would be 30 to 40% of the cost of the system. Or another way of looking at it would be, what is the savings annually and what is the net present value over the next, say, 5-7 years. So if I'm purchasing this home and I intend on being there 5, 70 years, let's just say on average, and my utility bill is going to be $100 a month. Well, what does that equal? And then we're going to discount that to today's money and see what that comes up with. So that's how I think about a residual value of a system and how I look at the overall value. Then, of course, with financing, you actually come out ahead right away because you're going to get that tax credit. And then kind of slowly your cumulative savings goes down until eventually you're around the break even. And then, of course, your loan gets paid off at year 15. So that's when you see substantial amounts of savings over time here. But the same thing can be done here, just discounting this to today's dollars. And that will tell you, is this something that's worth doing or not? If the number comes out negative, then no, it's not worth doing. You should, the opportunity cost is too high. You should stick your money elsewhere. If it is positive, then it's certainly worthwhile. Of course, if you're planning on moving in a year or two, it wouldn't be worthwhile because the next buyer might not value the system as much as you do, and so it's going to be hard to recoup that money. And then, if you need the money desperately for other projects, say you have a lot of credit card debt, or you owe a lot on other cars, student loans, that type of thing, probably not a good fit for you. But if you're someone that has equity, or you can do this loan at a low rate, then it certainly can make sense to do. Keep in mind that the 4.5% rate here is quoted, that it's deductible on your taxes as well. So that's why they've got this tax deduction line right there. So when I first talked to them, we went over what is the estimated utility expense. Currently, we had just added a hot tub back in September, and heating that during the winter was quite expensive. Our bill got up to like $150. It was the worst. And then Minnesota is really seasonal, so it gets pretty hot. In summer, not like hot like the rest of the U.S., but it gets very cold in the winter, so we have those extremes. Now with our hot tub, heating that in the winter, it could become less expensive than in the summer. We're running AC, so it kind of balances itself out. What I told them was just let's go with like $140 a month, or electrical equivalent to that for the kilowatt hours. So the top here is without using solar. This is what we anticipate with solar production. So what they do is they actually look at the overhead view of your house, which way it's oriented, and then they can tell you like how much sun exposure you're going to get and the efficiency of the system overall. So in Minnesota here, we're expecting in the winter time we're going to use we're not going to be able to generate as much power, so we're going to actually have to purchase power. But the rest of the year we're going to get power back. And in Minnesota we have net metering, so what that means is I can sell power back to the utility company, and it just goes right into the grid. So this is a grid-tied system. We're not going to be off the grid like what there's a common misconception. So unless you had a whole bunch of battery packs, being off the grid, completely off grid, is not really very feasible for most people, because a lot of your appliances are very energy heavy, and it's not always sunny out, so you would need to store that power overnight. You could do that with like a Tesla battery system or one of the equivalents, but you would actually need a lot of those packs in order to do that, because the draw for some of these appliances is pretty heavy. So anyways, it's a grid-tied system. You sell power back. In Minnesota, we have that option. My utility company doesn't like subsidize having a solar system at all. In some areas, that is something that you can get. So we don't have that. We do have to pay like a monthly fee just to be connected to their system. It covers administrative costs and stuff. And so that's why we see this like $16 charge there. So down here we have the estimated savings, annual savings there. Here's some fun facts about environmental benefits. For me, to be honest, like I do think this is important, but really I was looking at this as more of a financial decision than anything. So here are the panels, what they look like, what's going to go on our house, and here's what the outside is going to look like. A little bit more ugly than it is currently. We've got the 2 extra box there, communicates internally. So the way this system's set up is that the conversion from DC to AC actually occurs down here versus up on the roof. Then here's your kill switch there, then extra box. So when it's sunny out, power comes in, goes down here, it goes into the system, house uses it. When it's not, then it pulls from the grid. And if any excess power goes to the grid, you get a credit for that. If you had a battery pack, it would go, right here to the right or left, and it could store power there from the sun. But I'm not going to do that. Those battery packs are pretty expensive and very hard to justify the return on investment. We're not in an area where we have a lot of power outages, nor do I have anything super critical that if the power went out, it would be the end of the world. So I'm okay with just having a grid-tied system and no battery backup. Here's what the mount system will look like. That's an example on the house. And currently the plan is that we will videotape this and record it, and then document the whole process, installation, and kind of go through the finances as we go again, and kind of compare what I expected versus actual. So that was the first proposal. During our conversation, we discussed the possibility of using off-peak for EVs in the future, and instead going with a smaller system. So that's what we ended up doing. And this is what I signed a contract for. So it's 9.18, and then should offset about 99% of our anticipated energy needs for the year. We'll see how it actually works out. What's interesting too is that our house doesn't show up on Google Maps because it's a new house, but they were able to get this image, and it was, this conversation happened in April. Well, we had just finished the deck, and we had just put that table out there very recently. So interesting that how recent the photo was. Kind of cool. We have since gotten our grass to come back in, and a nice little fence there, but yeah. So same information there. Yeah, so the cost of the system is going to be $26,500, and we had to put $1,000 down, and we're financing the rest of it. So we got a loan. It wasn't the 4.5% that they had said on C's website here. Center for Energy and Environment is just a local Minnesota company, and they offer loans for solar projects here. So let's see. You can also use it for other energy upgrades, but we did their solar financing program, and rates start at 4.5% on loans up to $50,000. And the nice thing is that you get to take that tax credit right up front, and then they do actually give you a credit towards to the value of your home. We actually worked with Steve here, so it gave us credit for half of the cost of the system as a value. So they actually were able to use an appraisal that we had done previously because we had refinanced our home. The rates were so low. So they used that appraisal. The closing costs were very minimal. I think it was like $500 and then some other fees that we'd have to pay no matter what. But that actually works out pretty well. Our payment's going to be just slightly higher than what we were paying for just our electric bill before. So I'm jumping back here. The big reason that we decided to go ahead this year is to take advantage of that tax credit, $6,897. So we'll realize that right away next year. Here's some of the assumptions that they're looking at for our breakout. So as you can see here, it'll be about 12 years and 13 years that it will have broken even. Of course, that's assuming that the system has no value once after that point, which is obviously isn't true. Like, the next person will be able to continue to use the system. The solar panels do have a 25-year warranty, and their estimated life is obviously far beyond that, but for the sake of this analysis, we'll just say that after 25 years, it's worth nothing. So when we look at our estimated savings here, this column, what I will do is I'll just copy this over all the way down, open up a fancy Excel spreadsheet. So the proposal I was given shows the annual energy savings as well as their cash flow details. I want to look at what the net present value is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these annual estimated savings and then convert those into present value. And so I actually did this in Excel already. And next one. So what I've done is broken out by year 1 through 25. And then I kind of figured out what would the selling cost be, like what's the residual value of the solar system when you go to sell. So to figure that out, I just took 3 years or 5 years worth of expected savings right there, and net present value of those savings. I guess I could have adjusted this for inflation and have it go up. So let's just say times 1.03. Yeah. There we go. So it would be worth a little bit more. And then, of course, if you're selling in the future, we would adjust that further, because if I sell 10 years from now, we'll have 10 years worth of inflation. So anyways, I just wanted to have some sort of residual value, because in the PDF here, they're not giving any value for the system at any point. So in a rule of thumb I've kind of heard before, I mentioned this earlier, is that you could expect it to be about 30 to 40% of the system cost. So if I look at my 26,000 and I multiply that by 3, that's what I come up with, which is pretty darn close to the value I came with when I adjusted these for inflation. So that's not too bad. Anyway, so the first year, what we're going to have is this is with financing, by the way. So we're going to have that tax credit there. No money out of pocket. And then I should have included, I think this also includes so the tax credit and then 1 year's worth of savings. 6. Yeah. So yeah, that's year 1. Oh yeah, here's where I got that number. All right, so we have the tax incentives. I've got the utility bill, because there's going to be that 16 a month, and then all my payments on the loan. Tax deductions were factored in there, so you can write off the interest rate on that. So, and then year 2, we're going to have just those expenses. And then finally here on the last year, I said, okay, I'm going to get the value back. So if I own the system for 25 years, net present value comes out to $14,214. So that would be worth doing. And then, of course, if I were to sell early, I would need to pay off the loan. So on that final year, I've added in the cost to pay off the loan. And to get that, I went to, let's see if I can find it, bank rate, and I just did an amortization schedule here. And so I put in the original amount, term, and then I can just scroll down to whatever month we're looking at. I just did annual, so first year, if I owned it for a year, that's how much I would owe still. And so I plugged all those numbers in, because I'm a data nerd like that, and I thought it was interesting. So with financing, if I sold it the first year, sold my house the first year, and I just put the system on, say something happened to me or whatever reason we needed to move early, that would have been not good. It'd be a $12,000 mistake putting solar on, because we get the benefit of the tax credit up front, and then we get some residual value. And it actually gets worse, or it gets a little bit better at the second year, next present value of 10,000. So on and so forth. Then it goes actually down to, looks like year 12 is the break-even period with financing. And it's possible that a future buyer would see more value in the system, and that some of these assumptions could be slightly incorrect. So, margin of error here or there. But anyways, figure 12 years to break even, and then after that, making money. And of course, you get the benefit of clean renewable energy and not being so reliant on the power company. And then when I look at the cash value, this is if I hadn't had a loan at all. The first year we get tax credit plus the cost of the system, plus my cost savings, plus some residual value for the system, assuming that the buyer thinks it's worth that. Could be more, could be less. So again, you're not really realizing enough savings until you get to about year 9 here. This seems pretty typical. And then after that, make more. But without financing, net present value is 22,000. With financing, 14,000. So the loan can be prepaid at any time. So if I came into some money, I could pay it off earlier. I wouldn't have to worry about it. But this is just using the assumption that I would hold the loan all the way to term. So that would be year 15. So you can see things start to improve drastically after that year, since it's paid off. But yeah, so that's kind of the finance side of things. This is just simple cash flow analysis. It's kind of my background, so I thought it was interesting. I'm sure most people wouldn't dive this deep into it. They'd probably just look at, here's my annual energy savings, a pretty cool number, and here's what I can expect to save overall. So they're saying I'm going to cumulatively save 22,000, but they're not discounting that to today's dollars. So if I didn't have financing, sure, that number is correct. And this is using a discount rate of 4%. You can change that however you see fit. So that was a deep dive into the financial analysis of our solar system. We did sign the contract, and they're actually going to start the installation process this week. I will try to record as much of that as possible and then do another video. My plan at this point is to do another video another 6 months after that, once we've had a chance to use the system and kind of compare that to what we thought for as far as projections. So if you're into that kind of thing, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned.